Okay, thanks for coming to finance today. We're gonna go ahead and start, and I apologize, we are 4 minutes late. It's like we're going from one meeting to the next meeting, isn't it? It's so fun. Do we have a problem? We don't have a recording?
Oh, you got everything going.
Oh, good. You're up for arrest over there? Okay, just as a reminder, the exits are here. You can go out the emergency exit if there's emergency, and you can go up the elevator because we will be done before everything shuts down. Okay, let's do quick introductions of who's here. That would be great. Let's start over here, Deborah.
Amber Daly, USD Water Budget.
Carl, MSP Administrator.
Abe Lang, Utah Education Association.
Royce Van Tassel, Charter Schools.
Eric Felt, IT Director.
Okay, and then we have Cammie, who is in charge of all of us. And so we're glad you're here. We are going to change the order a little bit of our schedule because we have some movement, like Chair Huntsman needs to be somewhere and Angie needs to be somewhere. So I apologize that it's not going to be in the exact order. So we're going to go ahead and start with 1.3. The indirect cost rate schedule for state programs. So if you want to pull up 1.3, then we'll go ahead and start there. And I don't have it up. So who do we have doing that? You?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
There is no specific, precise language that says the board has to approve the indirect cost rate schedule for the state programs. However, because we've adopted so many new state programs or modified state programs through the last 2 or 3 years, staff felt it necessary to ensure that publicly it's acknowledged that we've set the standards, if you will, for what state programs, the respective rates that the LEAs, by way of another process, have landed on as far as what restricted and unrestricted rates they can or cannot charge to the state programs. That it would be beneficial for the public and for ultimately our LEAs to know that we have revised the schedule, that we're asking or seeking Finance Committee just to make a recommendation to the full board that the schedule be adopted and posted publicly for LEA use, but for public knowledge about what state programs can and cannot be charged and which restricted or unrestricted. So what you have in front of you is basically a summary list of all of the different programs and which ones are subject to basically the restricted and unrestricted charges.
Okay, will you just walk through one? Let's do adult ed corrections. Oh, it's not applicable. Let's do American Indian and Alaskan Native education amendments.
Right.
Okay, so the program code, we've got that, and then reimburse.
To reimburse, yeah.
Okay, so it's not a percentage, not a 12th or something.
No, not a 1/12 disbursement, it's a reimbursement. basis.
Okay, and it's unrestricted, so they can use that for whatever they need inside that program.
What unrestricted means is whatever the LEA's unrestricted rate that was calculated.
Calculated.
They can charge that unrestricted rate
Okay.
to the program or,
And who is they can charge that?
The LEA.
Thank
The
you.
LEA itself, yeah,
Thank
the
you.
specific LEA can do that. So did I cover that right?
Okay. All right, any questions from committee? Any from the public? Okay, and so this is really informational, and yet for situational awareness, we'd like to get this out in public as well as to the board.
We respectfully request that you action it, that you say.
We'll action it, but-
Yeah, that you action it and make a recommendation that the full board in their next meeting adopt it. We'll go ahead and publish it though, it's presumptive that the board would approve it. But we just want to make sure that it's been publicly acknowledged that we're implementing the rate schedule. Because it has also all sorts of different second and third level effects on compliance, potential audits of the LEAs and what they're charging to what state programs. And we really need to make sure
Okay.
that we're doing our due diligence and getting this out since there's been such a long delay. In revising the schedule, I mean, from what I understand, I don't think we've updated this since 2017. So, you know, it's long overdue in time. So staff would sincerely appreciate that because, again, along the lines of audit compliance and compliance with communication to our LEAs on what they can and cannot do by state program is important. And we'll amend as needed.
Okay, yeah, so it's gonna be a little bit fluid, right?
We will.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and we should be doing it perpetually. At the very least, we need to update it perpetually every year.
Okay, but I have a question, Scott. Do we need to have this in rule then, that it should come to the board?
Yeah,
So what rule would that come in?
It's got a rule assigned to it underneath.
that?
So the rule R227 here, it's assigned.
But we need to put in here.
Yeah, so I'll work with
Thank you.
Angie to do that. And
And
it'll
you'll
be
bring
just
that
an
back?
amendment. It'll be an
Yeah,
amendment.
it'll be a quick amendment.
Yeah, we'll do
So, but I think, what do you think? I think that'd be important if we're gonna prove it.
That's the rule.
And it's part of your motion.
Okay,
And as part of your motion, you can make that, you know, go ahead and make the recommendation and. you
well,
know.
I think we won't have to put that in the motion, but just know that we would like to see that come back. I think that can be a purpose.
We'll
And
cover
and
that.
Sean just made that motion
Okay.
to move this forward. Any questions by anybody on committee?
For
Oh,
We just need to move it forward,
we're
but not to the
gonna move
board.
this forward and then they'll bring a rule back to us on the backside.
Oh, okay, okay.
Is that okay?
so we mention the rule here. Correct.
I would recommend that, just because it's on the record and then that action, it's a staff action.
Okay.
To come back. And-
All right,
and
so
then
the
you're
motion
also-
is to move this forward and, so it really has two pieces, so, you wanna go ahead?
I motion to move the indirect cost type schedule R227-424-3 consideration for the whole board.
Yeah, I think it would be consideration it wouldn't be a first and second reading, because, okay. And then did you wanna add to have them bring back? Or we'll just leave that?
We can do it.
Okay, let's just leave that and you can bring it back. All right, Michelle, any questions on that? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No opposed, so we don't have to do that. Thank you, Scott. Okay,
Chair?
yeah,
So, staff from the State Charter School Board are here if you want to move the, let's see, it'd be 1.6 to the next. It's an
well,
action
that
item.
was already the next one.
Okay,
I saw,
That's all.
I know, I saw Jen come in, so. All right, so action, we're going to 1.6, because remember, again, we're gonna skip the discussions and information and move those to the end other than 1.8. Okay, so I gotta find where I am again. Hold on, I've lost my meeting. Okay, so we're on 1.6, charter school revolving loans. Okay, did you want to discuss this, or Jennifer, did you want to?
So actually, if you'll invite Brett, did I see Brett come in? Brett, why don't you come on, speak to it? So Brett, give him the background information on what the program is and then.
And introduce
where we're at.
yourself.
Well, yeah, introduce yourself, background information, where we're at right now and what we need, what we're respectfully requesting from the.
Okay. Brett Baltazar with the School Finance Department at USBE. We, right now, what's allowed in code and in statute is that the State Charter School Board can lend out the $2 million each year, up to $300 max for each school. And at this point, maybe I will bring in Jennifer on this one, but there's about $800,000, a little over $800,000 that has been lent out right now. So they're doing a second round of those applications and for the extra loan amount that they can loan out. Oh, the exact numbers.
No, but for clarification, this is actually,
Will you identify yourself first?
oh, sorry, I'm Jennifer Lambert, Executive Director for the State Charter School Board.
Thanks.
So this is the Charter School Revolving Loan Committee, which is a committee of this board. They're the ones that make the recommendations. I sit on that committee as a non-voting member. But there are 3 other individuals, one who's a former charter director, one who's a former charter business manager, and then I believe someone from the governor's office, that they sit on the board and they make recommendations. Whatever reason, in statute, it's got to go to the state charter school board first, and then it comes to the. So it's actually through your office that's making the loans. That's why Brett
My
is
bad.
talking. I don't actually know the amount. Stuart might.
Just, if I think if you tell us that there's money there, I think that's the
There is
most,
plenty of money there.
most important.
All state budget has
Okay.
sufficient funds to support.
I think that's the most
Yeah,
important piece
They
of
didn't
it.
have as many applicants the first round, and so they didn't have as much money going out the first round, and now they're doing a second round of those loans is what they're.
Okay, so, yes, Jennifer.
So one of those applicants is actually someone that we asked to come back because there was not sufficient information that gave the committee confidence in being able to recommend this loan. And so one of those is actually was brought back from the first round, that in the second round, they provided the sufficient information that allowed the committee to feel comfortable about recommending.
May I
And
ask
that was
a
you to
follow-up
that,
there? A follow-up on that to you? Are you ready?
See, this has been a while.
You think, it's not really detailed on that person, okay, or that school. But you didn't recommend them because you didn't have confidence. What decides the confidence? What is the rubric that the
So
committee uses?
There was insufficient information. There were some questions, if I remember right, on some of their budget, what the items were that they were going to be using the money for. And so they tightened that up in this second round and clarified in how they're going to be using the money.
Okay, so, and with this revolving loan money, is it replenished every year, Scott? Is
No.
this new money every year?
I'm sorry.
Revolving money, is it new every year? The 2 million every year?
It's by way of the loans that are out, the fund is increased by the payback.
Okay, so it runs
Yeah,
itself,
payback
it's in a
interest
circular,
rate, yeah.
okay, thank you, I just needed clarity on that, so. And has anyone ever defaulted on these? And what do you do about that?
This board, yeah.
So in one particular instance, we just, as part of the overall closing package, it was, we bring it to you, or well, to the finance committee at the time. And we asked that you approve it in the case of.
I think the technical term was bad debt.
Yeah, well, bad debt.
I think it was around 70,000 or something like that.
It was a closure, but
It was Wasatch Institute of Technology.
So you raised your hand, did you have something more for clarity?
I was going,
Come to the table. I just don't want to leave you out. Just come and introduce yourself, please. All right, Chair.
My name is Stuart Okovia, and I'm a staff on the State Charter School Board. And I was just going to clarify the criteria part of the first run around with the Utah Mountain School. They did not come to the board meeting, so there were some questions that the board had.
And they couldn't get answers.
Exactly, but they passed the criteria that we do as far as in-house to bring them to the board for them to, they were not there to.
You can stay here if that's okay, in case we need you. Chair? Throw you off?
forgot mine.
Okay.
I left my computer.
Okay. Any committee members, do you have questions about the revolving loan, or especially these two?
Just one question. They were not present, you stated.
No, before they qualified, and then they came back, they came in the second round.
There was some miscommunication to the school. The school did not realize that they needed to be present.
Okay.
And so when the committee we had questions, they were not there to answer and clarify things. But on the second round, they were present. They were able to clarify.
That was what I was asking.
That's a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I appreciate that there was communication problem and it wasn't necessarily them being belligerent or not, just wasn't sure what to do. I appreciate that too. Any other questions that you might have on these? So, are they gonna default? Yeah, from criteria that's out there, Scott, you would say that these look solid enough to have this loan? How do we know, Jen?
So how do we know? We never know for sure, just like anything. Do they ever know if someone's going to default? But we go through criteria and we look at, are they likely to default? And if a school closes, there's more money involved than just the amount that's in the revolving loan. We're talking about a small, relatively amount. I think in both these schools, you have strong boards. I know one of them have already hired a director and she seems very strong. And so you have individuals that we feel that there is confidence in those that are behind these two schools. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know the future, but I do have confidence in these two boards.
Because there is no criteria to look at because they're new.
Well, what
You see what I'm saying,
we do look
right?
at average credit scores of the board members. What are some of the other, we do look at what we can.
What you can. There's not school data, I should say.
Right, they have no track record because they've
Okay.
been approved for a few months.
I appreciate that you do your due diligence on what might be red flags. I appreciate it. Sarah, did you have a question?
I was gonna make a motion.
Great. Wait. Does anybody in the audience have anything they'd like to say? Okay, Chair.
I'd like to speak to my motion.
No.
Oh, okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve Advantage Arts Academy's loan amount of $68,700, or move to the board to approve Advantage Arts Academy loan amount of $68,700, and also move to the board Mountain School.
Hey, does anyone have any concerns that they're combined on the committee? Are you okay with that? All right. Chair?
They're following the process, and prior to this, I looked into it, yeah, there's a process to doing this, and for our finance committee members, we are a loaning, we're like a bank. We don't have, not loaded with loan covenants and debt to equity and all of those other things, and so that's very unique. I hope as we can see opportunities for betterments to shore this up in statute, gotta try to do it, but now looking at the criteria that we have, I don't know of anything that at a severe risk.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and thank you for answering our questions. Okay. Let's go on to 1.7, the approval for the board discretionary funds. Now, this is gonna take a few minutes.
So if you'll invite, finance director.
That would be great. That would be great.
Wait. Discretionary fund.
Yeah, but these are the new ones to spending.
Other money.
Scott, just for clarity, because even when I was reading this with you, I thought, here's this money up here in the top right-hand corner, the blue, and then down at the bottom is what we spent, but that's not really the way. What's down at the bottom is different than the money up at the top. What's still remaining is 1.1, right? 1 point,
Before he says yes, he's gonna know what right.
just make it up. $1.
Okay, so you're looking at the report, right?
Right, at the
So
remaining.
which we cover in the main board meeting. So yes, the remaining is the amount of funding that's not encumbered.
Yes, so everything,
So what
so
you see down in the main body of the report.
that's encumbered already.
is what's encumbered with more towards the right,
Right,
what the third column from the right, it says expended, what's been spent so far. So then.
So
the
we're looking
next
at
column,
remaining.
is what's left of what you as the board have already encumbered, have already obligated by that project.
Okay.
right? Does that make sense?
but the blue remaining is what we still have discretionary
Okay.
money over. So, but see,
need to
because
figure
that's, I just had to explain because it took me a long time to kind of figure that
We
out.
just need to figure out where we
See,
want those
White's
remaining
what's being
1 point.
spent.
Blue is what, thank you. Yeah, so if, we don't look at the white because that's already been approved by the board. That's already done, so we're looking at what's there and then what
Okay.
is being requested. Sure.
We want to look at the blue. We're just not talking about it today because as part of all of our
Thought we were.
transparency, everything
Oh,
else.
I thought we were talking about the blue today.
Oh, not the blue, I mean,
Oh,
oh,
the white, right, because that's already done.
white, sorry.
Thank you.
There we go.
So what
Well, I
we,
don't have my computer in front of me, but the pieces that are down before, we've always, to simplify this, to tell the big picture, we liked it on one sheet, so we know what you've done.
Yes.
And what's presently going on, and then the other is opportunity.
I appreciate that. So I just had to do it in the way my brain works and I think it might help us to know. Okay, Deborah. Oh, yeah, Scott.
so then procedurally, I create a memorandum that is addressed to you, to the finance committee members, which is also in your backup.
Right here, yep.
That states, as of the last report, which is August, which is, period 2 of the current fiscal year, you have X amount of dollars remaining, that's the blue part, right? In your federal mineral lease funds, and then also in the blue, your state funds. So you see the cross match or the crosswalk between report and what we're requesting. So given that those funds are unencumbered, not obligated or not committed, we're asking for you, requesting that you make a favorable recommendation to the Board of Education. So if you scroll down, well, I'm requesting that the Finance Committee members make a favorable recommendation to Utah State Board of Education for the use of these funds in the following allowable ways. So we're always gonna make sure we're detailing to you that what we're proposing is allowable, by way of what the funds are intended for. So for instance, in the code related to federal mineral lease, the language says it's for research and development purposes, right? R&D type purposes. Now, the state funds are unrestricted, and as long as we use them for education purposes, so education purposes is a broad term, right? So really, state funds are pretty much unrestricted, at your discretion. The FML part, the federal mineral lease funding, has to be along the lines of research and development. So with that, then we put the first request in, which is that you favorably recommend to the Board of Education to provide $200,000 the remaining balance of state funds for use towards continued building improvements. I should have put continued in there. Specifically, this funding would go for the purpose of a break room remodel, cubicle reconfiguration and an update in the CTE work area, which is on the second floor. There is no third floor. I've been in.
There is
Basement.
3 floors.
Well, there's 3 floors, but not.
Levels, we got it.
Yeah. So basement conference room carpet as well. And so we also attach for your use in your decision-making process of where we're at, because as you know, we've reported here in the Finance Committee and then to the full board, this ongoing improvement process to the building, right? So Cammie is here to answer any and all questions or concerns you may have with request number 1, which is use of the state funds unrestricted for education purposes, which is allowable for $200,000. So any questions, Chair, That is the first request for use of funds.
Questions? I mean, I have some questions. I guess you can stay there, right? But just state your name when you're answering. What already has been on the docket that's not finished yet? That's already paid for? Like, do we still have some security updates that have already been paid for, like in the admin room and?
So County Wilcox Administrative Services Manager, haven't paid for them yet, we've obligated them.
Obligated the money, okay.
Yeah, we do have the security updates. Also got some funds set aside to help with, well, we had $100,000 for the restrooms, but we don't think we're going to need to use that. So that can potentially be used towards part of the carpet upgrades too. That's why we're asking for a smaller amount than what we initially thought for this year, so.
Okay, this doesn't have anything to do with money, but it does. The carpet upstairs that is new looks like it's older than this carpet.
I put in,
And right before the restroom remodel. So we redid the carpet and then found out that we got the restroom remodel done, and then they did all that demolition and
But it's
drum.
even outside of the elevator. And what?
So we actually had it cleaned last week too, and it
Doesn't look any better.
so I can apply to get our money back.
Well, I just wonder if the carpet is, I mean, that much use should not defunct industrial carpet like that. So it may have some problem, yeah. Oh, Mark, sorry, I know that was off kilter. Because it's gonna cost us money to fix that. Okay, Mark, go ahead.
The question that I have, and I'm excited about, before I ask the question, excited about all the improvements it's been passing through, like IT, the enthusiasm, and they love their spaces and all that stuff. They're excited. And then I went up to see Jennifer up on the upper floor the other day, and it took me a while to get to her office because the employees there were talking about how excited they were about their cubes and all of that. So there's, besides safety and a few other things, definitely an improvement. But I think some of the visual effects that we probably aren't tracking is workplace morale and so with that said, it seems like we're slowly and we're carefully doing our own improvements on this whole building, but I'm curious, is there a master plan of the way we put this together, prioritizing, like, are we gonna do this next, but what's after that? What's on the horizon or is this, we take the highest need, and what is USBE's operation side procedure in setting these priorities of what's?
So it has been kind of in conjunction with sections if they have section budget available. So it hasn't all been sponsored by discretionary funds of the board. If section has some, and you some of those spend plans yesterday, that's where the priority comes, basically. First one we started with was financial ops because they had an influx of staff and they inherited that space from rehab when they left. So that was our first priority because we had to house additional people in space. IT was also up on the priority schedule because of USIMS and house, again, additional contractors. So it kind of makes its own priority as we go along. But yeah, we just look at the need and how much budget is there, and depending on the size of the section too, we may or may not that section that year based on how many cubicles are needed. And
So events do trigger changes in priorities. So once we knew that USIMS was funded, right, we moved up the configuration of the IT. So internally, we set priorities, but then they're always subject to, adjusting the priorities based on events that occur.
So would you say that the break room remodel had something to do with an event that happened on that floor in there?
I think it's just an integral part of the overall drive to update buildings.
So what kind of floor are you gonna put in there?
Probably something similar to the flooring we've been putting in like behind Kathy Housekeepers in those break rooms. Not the VCT tile anymore.
That's not gonna be quite so slick.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
I
Okay,
went for lace curtains, but can't be killed.
of course you did not do lace curtains.
Okay, fine.
Do you have any questions on this 200,000? Does anybody in the audience have questions on this motion? Oh, I guess I shouldn't have taken your motion before the audience. Dang it. I can't ask the audience now.
The second one,
Well, we're gonna do this one first.
also you're gonna do.
Yeah,
motion
he
for
did a
this
motion for one.
Did-
Want me to make?
I thought you made the motion already.
No.
Oh, it was the other one. Okay,
I had a question.
okay, Chair, then I'll let you. Or do you want to do them all together? Okay, then let's go on, Scott.
Okay, the second request, from one of the other available sources of money or discretionary funds from your federal mineral lease account for balance is to provide $650,000 for the research, development, production, and sustainment of a state school land trust interactive website. We did provide a rough order of magnitude that was developed in close cooperation with Paula, the director of the school land trust section and our IT section. So with that, I'd ask the chair call Director Plant and Director Belt to the table for further development of this request.
Stay in the middle, Deborah. Stay right there.
So again, we provided the rough order of magnitude for Finance Committee review, so I think it's well, actually, Chair, if it pleases you and the committee, I think we should start with Paul. Paul, if you'd let the committee know what the situation is, the background as far as the website goes and what's brought us to this point. And also, talk to him about, the potential for extending the current contract, but that ultimately the desire is to have this in.
Had a contract with Utah Interactive. It's a 5-year renewable annually, and that we finished that up at the end of this past fiscal year. They are not really interested in with us, but are willing to maintain the website until we find another solution. And so I started looking for other solutions, and there was a chance that Sitla might actually take it over and manage it for us. And when they started looking into it, it turned out require some additional funds. And their recommendation is that we just really, one of the factors that I think is important for you to consider is that we have tried to bring the website in-house a couple of times, but it is built on a platform and in a language that is not supported here by IT. So, the natural thing would be, well, let's just bring it in-house here. The problem is we can't do that because the support isn't here for. Based on the information I got from the Sitla IT, Mike Brown, who looked at it extensively, felt like there were a number of things that were broken or were going to break and were going to require money to fix it. And instead of spending money to fix something that's outdated already, he said, I think you better just try and rebuild it. That's when I mentioned with Jared and his team, talked about it. For the coming year, Utah Interactive, who we were with, has agreed to extend maintenance contract through the end of this fiscal year. So the end of June, that contract right now, that would be maintenance only until we get to the end of the year in order to have some time for the website to be.
Questions?
So Jared Felt, USBE IT Director, I do want to point out that this isn't just a website. It's more of a workflow, role-based authentication. Because it would just on the face of it, it looks like an expensive website, but there's more to it than that.
Because I have to interact. I do it
Okay.
from a school standpoint.
Yeah.
And it's very cumbersome.
So like Paula said, it's built in Java and we don't support that here. We would have to, buy new technology, new software to support that. So it's not something we can just.
Value add to the finance committee members, especially to the public, considering the dollar amount and what's at stake here. Paula, will you describe, I label it as an active website. Can you describe, to Chair Belknap's point, obviously you've had some experience with it, right? Can you describe just
All
what
the time.
interactive means and
Just did my report.
what the LEAs are doing, our school community councils are doing on that side?
Yeah, so the law requires that the council submit their request for funding on the website. And so every school has a login and they access forms that are required by law for them to submit and report. So they all have a login, every school in the state, and then the districts also have logins so that they can review those plans because they're the ones that do the approval. So they all have a login so that they can review that. Then there's an administrative level, so there's kind of a school level, there's a district level, and there's an administrative level. Different applications, is that the right word, can happen at each level. Higher submission and process to distribute funds, not the distribution of the funds, but the calculation based on entries from prior years and so forth, all happen within that. Jared may want to add to that because he knows more about it than I do.
So I just confirmed the number with it. This website has 1,034 clients.
Schools, roughly.
I call them clients because that's what they're individual clients. And plus the districts, there's a district level on the administrative side, and I'm in favor of this and having us take care of this than always reaching out and saying, oh, we need that. This is with everything that's happened with state school land trust and our involvement. We have this piece and this is our responsibility, SBE, and so we need to be supporting our great staff with a great tool.
It helps to eliminate some risk.
Looking at the cost, and it doesn't seem like it's had a.
But I do have a question on the cost of it. $650 to get it up, going, working. Are we going to have a cost on top of that to maintain it?
So that's a good question. So there's an acquisition cost, which is to get it done and completed. That's $446,000.
I saw that. Yeah.
Then we have sustainment costs, and that could be at 152, could be more or less depending on how much support is needed to the LEAs, how many changes down from the legislature, whatever changes Paula and her team make. So that could vary year to year.
That could be every year.
Correct. So right now, I think you're paying 80,000 per year.
We're paying, for just maintenance, we're paying $5,000 a month, so it's 60. But the maintenance, things have already broken.
Yeah.
They won't fix them under that contract.
Okay, so we're at 152, subtract the 80, I mean 60, so.
Yeah, and that's broken out, man hours, how much hardware and software to manage the life cycle management of that. So that could vary depending on.
Is there any way to make it, because of what it is, maybe not more streamlined? Is there any way to to make it more simple or closed in?
Yeah, so
You see
when
that?
Paula and my team met, we discussed ways of simplifying it. So we would build that in at the time. And I do want to point out, there's other considerations that we have in the ROM that could be less expensive, like using SharePoint and things like that, but we didn't explore those yet. That's something that we could do. What the estimate is based on bringing in contractors and then using our project management team in-house to manage.
Can it get done in this timeframe?
Yes, and that's, I mean, the part of the cost is because we have to get it done in such a short time frame. So, you know, the shorter the time frame, the higher the cost. And so this is to get it done by July 1st.
Is there going to be any transfer of information and they're willing to do that to a new system, all of the other company or?
Yes, so this includes the migration of the existing data. I think we have to go back 5 years to move that over. So that takes into account that transition.
Okay, so that includes that, okay. Questions over here? None? Anyone in the audience have a question? All right. I know Chair was gonna make a motion, so I'll come back to you,
I've
Chair.
been talking too much.
No, we don't care. We'll rotate, right, guys, over there? A lady and a guy.
Don't we have the first motion? Didn't he
No,
already?
he didn't make a motion. I thought he had, but he did not. So they're not separate.
Then I move that we approve the request for use of Utah State Board of Education discretionary funds. Final approval?
Okay, and do we, Cammy, will you be specific about what those are or in the,
Oh,
you don't, it doesn't have to be in the motion specific, but we'll have that, okay? Right. Any questions? All in favor?
aye.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you.
Yami, will you text Angie?
But we can,
We're getting close, though.
but we can move on to others.
She
But
wanted to know.
when we're getting close, and when she gets here, we can stop an informational piece. But I do want to ask a question. 1.5, we don't have any discussion on today, right?
Other than it's in the same status it was before, that, you know, we're looking at, which is public knowledge, that we're looking for a settlement.
We're for settlements. Yeah, so just for clarity, on 1.5, that we are still about in the same process, working, try and figure out a settlement with the American International School of Utah. That's really all the update we have. I wish we had more, but that's all we have for today. So, okay, so let's go back to, should we just go back to number 1 then? Do we have a recognition in progress today?
Slip and see if Carol's
Yeah,
in.
you better, because the other one, Andrew's gonna be here next. Better go up to the other one. I told them that you'd have to go, and I just really on record want to excuse Scott. He has a family death and he's not here today, so. Or pending. Right.
And I'm going up to another committee.
Yes, and Chair Huntsman has to serve with another committee today, so.
Chair?
Yes.
Agenda item 1.1 is specific to recognizing the achievement of the board's procurement director or head of procurement, Zach Christensen. He was recently published, he had an article recently published in the Utah Bar Journal, September and October 2019 edition. Why we feel that's important to recognize Zach is because anytime a staff member is published in such a distinguished media source, it's an indicator of just how well they're thought of in their own, you know, like by the Utah Bar, and it demonstrates their knowledge, skills, and abilities, you know, and outside of the operations of the Utah State Board of Education, which is a value add since having, you know, high speed, high performing individuals like Zach is just awesome on you know, to have have a great staff.
I like that. I wish he was here.
Right, I don't know.
We would applaud him like this.
Yeah. Right, so he was also recognized in the newsletter that goes out to all the
Yes.
staff of the Utah State Board of Education. So we just want to make sure that anytime our staff achieve great things every day. So, you know, we always want to recognize any individual, also recognize outside of, you know, all the great things they're doing internally here for the Board of Education, and
That's great.
recognition.
Is there anything else on there?
No,
Um,
not for 1.1.
Okay. Any, yes?
Matt Holton is here. He's actually going to be the point person.
Oh, for 1.8? Well then, Jeff, that is perfect timing. We'll go right to you. We're going from 1.1 to 1.8. Makes perfect sense in finance, doesn't it?
Great.
It's just like we're a pinball machine here.
In charge of your budget.
I know, just put us in charge for a minute here. Okay, so we're going on to 1.8. R 277601, standards for Utah school buses and operations, and it's an amendment. So Jeff, will you introduce yourself and?
Sure. Can you also invite Ron up? He's our transportation.
Want to join?
Okay, Ron, here you go.
So, Jeff Van Holten, Policy Advisor for the board. Rule 601 was continued a few months back. It was time sensitive to get the continuation done. We did not have the time to do the amendments to make the formatting compliant with the rule writing style guide. So what you're going to see before you is just taking the rule and amending it so that it fits the style guide. There's no substantive changes to this rule. We just updated the language, and we did incorporate the manual by reference because we did require in the original version of the rule that LEAs are required to follow the manual, so we made that official by
What's the
incorporating
manual?
the school bus operation manual, and that was recently updated.
Yeah.
Ron can give you all the details of everything that was changed within
Is
the
that
manual.
training for bus drivers?
No.
Okay, that's different. Okay, just needed clarity. So,
Chair,
yeah.
actually, I think it would be value add if.
Oh, I'm having.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Scott. Okay, Ron, introduce yourself, please.
I'm Ron Litchfield, I'm the Utah State Board of Education Pupil Transportation Specialist. And oversee all the school transportation across the state.
Okay, and so I would ask you the same question. So what is this book?
So this is the
Manual?
Utah Standards for School Bus Operations and Procedures. What has happened is we adopt a national standard, and our Utah standard now reflects the differences or additions to the national. So our latest
There's a link.
revision
Yeah.
actually simplified our state manual. The standards close to 600 pages now, and so we actually with this last revision went from 118 pages down to 27, and
Someone might read it now.
someone might read it, and we tried to make it really user-friendly. There's links throughout the manual.
It's awesome.
So that you can click and get to the materials or links to the website and always be looking at the latest code according to us with this revision.
That's good. So I want to ask you another sidebar question. It's not even on this. So is it federally mandated, state mandated, or district mandated? The distance before a a student can get on a bus or they have to walk? Where does that come from?
So that's a Utah state law.
So it's code.
And so we have explanations of how to do the measurement for that law is in our administrative rules.
Okay.
I have a question, just piggybacking on that, because I know the law says up to a certain amount of miles, but there is a situation down in southern Utah where the child lives outside of that, like within that mile, so he could walk, but the route to walk
is longer.
Causes him to go through the river, and in order to go around the river on the bridge, actually adds more miles. So how does that work?
So we always tell parents that the safe route to school, which is generally identified by the SNAP plan that the school puts together in conjunction with the SNAP committee, which would have city, school leadership, often community council, identifies the safest route to school. So the safe route to school, one of its purposes is to combine multiple neighborhoods into one route to school. And what that does, it provides safety in numbers. And it also puts students away from all the other obstacles throughout the city. So even though the measurement says you don't qualify for transportation, but we would like you to walk 0.2 of a mile more to avoid hazardous areas, that does not consider them eligible, but it does put those students in the safest route to get to school.
That makes no sense, does it?
I know, it doesn't. There's a few like that in St. George, that pesky river, you know?
Yeah, and right now we don't really have a lot of exceptions to that rule, which ultimately make things harder to manage as a statewide.
So we had an interesting question by someone. Is it the measurement from the front door of the building or the back door of the building? Because that made a difference of like 20 students in an area, 20 students that they were eligible or not.
So the measurement is to the nearest access point to the school. So in some cases, I have an example of a high school where the football field has an open gate, and it's actually 0.3 of a mile on school property to the front door. And so that actually opened up almost 3/4 of a
Say the front door,
3/4
just
of a square mile of homes, which would be quite a few
There's
students.
bus drop-offs in the back.
That's true.
So.
And this was discussed last year in the legislature.
Yeah, I
So,
know. It's just fascinating though, isn't it?
It's interesting.
No.
So.
And as a teaser, it will come up again this session. The
Oh,
representative
yes.
I kind of figured it probably would, with all the stuff that's been happening.
So would you say that, and maybe this isn't your call, that safe routes don't override distance? Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Okay.
So if the safe
So
route
that's
is
a problem.
further, it's still.
That's a
So
problem. A safe
safety-
route
Some of
should be
safety
first.
overrides.
3 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Safe
literally
route should
3
be
miles.
So, and we do recommend that schools in that position should be working with their cities to apply for some of the safer route to school grants to improve infrastructure and minimize that. That was one area that I was involved with this year. And we were able to provide some infrastructure grants that would reduce those. There are a lot of programs in place, hopefully to minimize the impact and still get students to school safely.
In Washington County, they've been doing a lot, but I mean.
How many
let's go
bridges
back
can you
because-
build?
I know, and we've had so much growth
Yeah.
in that area that it's hard to keep up.
It's going-
It's a lot of growth.
Okay, so really, this is, if we're going back to the rule, is really just cleanup.
Correct.
Do I have a motion on this? Oh, does anyone want to speak to this rule? Sorry, now do I have a motion?
I move that we approve R277-601, standards for Utah school buses and operations on first reading and submit to the board for approval on second and final reading.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Draft 1 or draft 2?
Draft 2. Draft 2. Add that in there. I didn't even say a draft.
She didn't say a draft, but it is draft 2.
It is draft 2.
Thanks.
Great,
Thanks,
thank you.
Jeff, and thanks, Cammie. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and for answering our odd questions that don't have anything to do with that.
But it was really good information.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to talk about too, when the session comes up. Okay, we are on to 1.2, requests for data and information. Did we have some this time? Oh, I thought we
Yeah, you
did.
had some from last time that we're
Oh, that's right.
We're gonna follow up.
Okay,
Well, first of all, a new addition that's beneficial for your information, then ultimately the board's information is the news release from the state treasurer on the 2020 school fund distribution. Director Plant's here, in addition to the earlier agenda item, to answer any questions you might have based on this information. So, just another great year. So schools are slated to receive a record 88.83 million from the Permanent State School Fund in July 2020, a 7.5% increase from the year's distribution of 82.6 of this year, from this year's, which is, fiscal 20. So July 2020 is fiscal year 21. Fiscal year 20, this year, we're gonna disperse 82.66 million. So next year it'll be 88. A 20% increase from last year's distribution of 74 million. Did I get the dates right? I did.
Yeah.
Under the School Land Trust Program, investment earnings from the Permanent State School Fund are distributed to every school in the state based on a per pupil formula. This is something that's, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but I did want to read that part. Because a lot of times people actually have questions on, well, how's the distribution calculated? Right, and that's really the basic of how we, or how the distribution is calculated. Based on a per pupil formula. So if you want even more details on that, we can provide that, or if you have any other additional questions related to this news release or the program itself, again.
You were Paula.
Me or Paula to it, so.
Michelle has a question.
So when it says that they're slated to receive 88.83, is that divided up between a certain amount of schools? Like that's the amount of money that will be divided up? And then is it money, like do schools have, is it restricted that it has to be used in certain ways or can it?
Do you want to come up, Paula? Yeah, because there are some restrictions, but it's not like unrestricted money, but it has some restrictions. Does that make sense? Is that a right statement?
Does the school apply for this and say how they're gonna spend it? Is that how it works?
So that's a lot of questions.
This is Paula Plant.
Paula Plant, and I'm the School Children's Trust. So the website that we just talked about, that's where they submit their application to receive funding.
Oh, okay.
And their plans are approved by the local school board. So it's not something that happens here, it happens there. We do a final review just to make sure that everything's consistent with the law. So then that brings us to the next question, are there restrictions? The law says it has to be academic. So the state board has defined what academic means. You all have done that. And made an additional parameter about 18 months ago relating to behavior. So the case was made that if students have behavioral issues and they can't learn, they need to have those addressed in order to be able to succeed academically. And so the board expanded that definition and said if you have a behavior that can support an academic goal, then it's academic. So an example of that would be like student home visits for entering the school system. Not comfortable with coming to schools, or that's not part of their culture. The data and the studies have shown that those home visits help students succeed, help them get a head start and do well. And so even though that's a behavioral, it supports an academic goal.
Oh, Jay, come on up.
Well, Paula doesn't toot her own horn, but I just want to add that this money is really unique in Utah because it goes to the school community councils. They are the ones that develop the plans, which has a majority of parents on the school community council. And yes, there are school personnel on there, the principal, there's teachers as well. They are the ones who develop the plans for the trust land money. And the fact that it's grown from a small amount of money now to nearly $90 million being distributed is a fantastic thing. The permanent fund, the body of the trust is over $2.5 billion now. Kicking off these proceeds to be distributed is a very good thing as well. And the way it's being managed is very good. I've been involved since I was a teacher. seeing the proceeds now. I'm one of the representatives on the Trust Land Advisory Committee to the board representing the educators. So that's why I can speak to it a little bit too, and very grateful for that opportunity. But as well, the unique part in Utah is the parental involvement component too, which is very powerful. That how this money goes doesn't stop at the state, barely, or at the district, goes right to the schools to make an impact there with the parental involvement component, very strong. But where your section here does such a great job is the training component as well. Great trainings throughout the state every fall. Go travel around the state, training the school community councils to do their job well, which is another, that's why I wanted to speak to say what a great job they do in training the school community councils to do their jobs, to comply with the code and the board rule and how the money's spent, because it's important that they stick to those academic concepts and apply it to academic achievement and the most critical academic needs in the school, to almost quote the rule. So to do so. So thank you for letting me.
No, I appreciate that. And I thank you for serving on that committee as well. So, do you have anything else for Paula? Okay, can I just say that I love the whole concept of the trust lands and the parental input. In my school, we literally look at the parents and say, what do you think we need? And they look at us, well, what do you think we need? So it ends up being a great discussion. So, okay. All right.
The next item for information, and this will be a perpetual item that we put into to this as backup to the agenda item, is the monthly program management review of USIMS. Because USIMS is such high visibility, we feel like, and we're open, staff are open, obviously, at your direction or the board's direction, to post this in other places in addition to this, or not here anymore. But this PMR is really critical to providing the public situational awareness of where we're at with USIMS. It also, so you'll note the first part, it says important to note, the roadmap is based on information we have to date. This is a living document that will change as we get, as priorities are adjusted. So it starts off with the USIMS architecture, then, personnel and what positions we're filling or necessary as part of the overall project. There's the USIMS website. There are some, any program here, we implement risk assessments. So specific to risk description number 1, will be, and more likely than not, always subject to the board and ultimately Chair Huntsman's approval of where this lands. It being the rule or rules, we're concerned that in order for USIMS to be effective, it needs to mirror or be designed to support your rules, as far as whether it's, data standards, reporting standards, what does right look like, as far as what's being put in. We feel that there's, in the near term, we really need to put a lot of effort into ensuring all the board rules and the direction is clear, so that as the architecture is built, and then ultimately implementation of the different pieces and parts that arrives at USIMS as a whole is designed to support you, the board, in your governance of, public education across the state. So that, the system is useful for the data that is brought into it, but then also useful to the LEAs as well, in support or in conjunction with governance, along with the, Director Felt's here as well, if you want to bring him up, talk more about USIMS, but I'll just walk you through it.
I want to ask you a question, like on reverse, you said we need to make sure we build USIMS around our rules, but maybe USIMS is going to drive rules that we need to change as well. So that's what I would ask, that if they see that as we're getting an end-to-end system that we're missing a rule, because we don't want to put risk out there without a policy or a rule around it.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
And then each month we'll provide, basically what amounts to the upcoming events. And why we did this as well is that, you know, board members, you're always welcome to attend any of the events. These would be events though that wouldn't be paid for or compensated, you know, that process and all that too. But we want to make sure that you know that a lot of the stakeholders are participating in these events. We also provide the USIMS budget by fiscal year, an update on that. It's very important that we're, you know, demonstrating our due diligence in ensuring that the taxpayers' dollars are optimized, you know, to arrive at the end state, which is USIMS. So, you know, again, we provide the expenses to date. Where's the money going? Dollar for dollar. You recall Chair Huntsman was really adamant that we need to provide that.
Yes.
You know, on a professional basis too, as always.
And how often are we required and or are we reporting up to the Hill on this?
So there'll be my understanding is there'll be a report once a year, basically,
Okay.
you know, at the very least, you know, depending on as we progress. So I'd anticipate that, we would provide an update on USIMS as part of the legislative session. Now, what committee that'll be in or how that'll go, maybe we just submit a report. And we'll be ready to do that, depending on what dates established in, you know, each committee.
I realize they're not asking for this, Scott, but should we be giving them, even if we just give it to the leadership, an update of where we are?
Yeah, so.
Just generally to them.
Right, yeah, so this was provided to, so the bill sponsor was Andreg, so we'll be providing this PMR and future PMRs to him. Bill sponsor, but yes.
Who was
Andreg,
who
Senator
was the
Andreg.
co-sponsor? Anybody know? Mummy. But I'm wondering if it shouldn't go to approps and education approps, just.
Yeah, I'll talk to Ben.
You decide if that's overload or I think if they see the progress that will be, anyway, you.
Doesn't be.
Oh, Carrie Ann, okay.
FA, yep, so we provide the visuals, basically the pie charts on the expenditures to date. We also provide the USIMS roadmap, it's updated, you know, as part of the PMR monthly. Attachment B is specific to a FAB standing for Functional Advisory Board. These are all your participants.
It's so small.
Yeah. Well, you know, USIMS is a system that, you know,
It's awesome.
covers the vastness of the public education enterprise. Attachment C, we try to do our best to provide definition of terms, especially where we use acronyms. That pretty much concludes the PMR. So this is an information update, but if any of the finance committee members see anything that should be, or feel that there should be additional information provided as part of this overall PMR, we're open to that as well, so. So again, we'll put this into the backups on a monthly basis. I won't go through it in as much detail as I did.
No, I think it's okay. It's okay.
We always want to call out, like, you know, in this.
Any questions from committee? Have you had any questions or rub about either who's on the advisory board or who's on the, what is it called, the FAB, or what is it called?
Functional Advisory Board.
Yeah, anybody, have you had any complaints or concerns?
I have not. I think that.
We're still
if
missing a
anything, I've got-
teacher.
If anything, I've got feedback that they really feel, everybody says it is a big group and they understand, but everybody that I've spoken with, which is a multitude of the individuals you see, have expressed gratitude for being included. Such a big part of.
Right, for this. What about a teacher? Jared? Did we find one?
Yeah, so we are actually in the process, so we're doing the teacher licensing portion of it right now. And as you can see on the roadmap, that's what Jared Felt, USB IT director. And so Judy, who's the PM, project manager for USIMS, is reaching out and she's working with Travis to find a teacher that would like to be involved in that. So it's just not listed yet.
Hey, it would be great. I'm wondering if we wanted a teacher who's active right now. That might be.
Yeah, and so if you have any input, I know, you know, that we would, they're all, you know, anybody that you.
No, I really don't. I just, that was
No,
not.
she's working with Travis and we should by the next month have one identified.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you for filling that hole. Any other questions? Scott, I personally really appreciate having this report because people ask, I don't know if they're asking you on finance about USIMS and what's going on, but I'm hearing it. So I appreciate the update. Thank you.
Right, and if this doesn't provide answers to the questions that you're getting asked, let us know.
It is.
And then we can provide additional detail, as part of the ongoing.
Okay.
The next item for information, and this is a follow-up from last month, is Finance Committee members requested that internal audit provide feedback on, if you recall last month, asked for or provided information, actually it was an action item, wasn't it? No, it was information on the method that we're taking to book accruals, so to speak. And one of the questions came up, well, you can see what actually happened. In September of 19 Finance Committee meeting, committee members included the following information request. You asked staff to check with internal audit on what the risks and or consequences of an incorrect estimate on an accrual means, and this is their response. I won't read it word for word. There is significant risk of a material error if we're not clear and in our application of the booking of the accruals. So, that this is provided as follow-up to that request for information from internal audit to describe or to provide you what it means, or what the consequences are of correct estimate on it.
Well, what do we do about it?
If we have an incorrect
They've given
estimate,
us the responses of the possibilities of the errors,
right,
but how do we eliminate the possibilities of these errors?
by doing what we provided information on, by the methodology that Deborah presented to you last month.
Yes.
So by virtue of the process that she wants to take or that our accounting team takes with that, we feel that is the highest level of mitigation against the risk of
The best we can do.
material error.
Yes. Because I remember when she gave that but we didn't know exactly what all the risks were, and so now it's come full circle, yeah.
And that's why we felt we needed to provide that information on how we were doing that to demonstrate that we are
Appreciate Debbie looking at this. She's always very
very fair.
detailed and very fair. Yeah, so, okay, any questions on this other report? Okay,
So there are some other information requests that you asked for, specific to the CARE program, and we should have those tied up next month.
or December, just say next month or December. Okay. In case you don't get them next month. Thank you. Okay, anything else that we're done with that, right?
No, I don't think there was anything else. Let's stop.
Did you have something, Sean?
No, I'm just saying, I can't believe we're already saying December.
That's almost frightening, isn't it? But I've been listening to Christmas music since July 25th. I don't listen to it in July 24th. I only go to clear till the end of June and then start at the end of
I have started. And I did buy some Christmas lights.
My boys
They're
were,
gone.
I know, my boys were disgusted on Sunday, but I didn't care. All right, so not past Christmas now we're moving back to 1.4, the Grants Management Systems Dashboard.
The intent of this one was to actually show you the dashboards. We put it as a placeholder.
Yeah, we don't have it.
Probably another month, so I request that we defer this until next month.
We'd like to see it instead. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I can show you that it won't quite be.
No. Can I just say something? Because really, we are done with our agenda. But I just wanted to say something, how much I appreciate you and your operations group. You're so well prepared. We have time to meet ahead of time. Our entire committee has this information early. We get to read it. And I appreciate because our committee, we are readers. We read ahead of time. We know what's coming. So when there's not a lot of questions, it's not because we don't know what we're doing. It's because we've already read it and we've asked lots of questions on the backside. So I really appreciate the movement of our committee that it doesn't take 110 years because it's already been asked. So I know that all of you appreciate that too. So committee, do you have any questions or comments that you'd like to make? Okay, then we will consider the finance committee adjourned.